can get started. Welcome back, DeLorean Rental, your number one choice for renting a DeLorean Time Machine. Today we've got a very, very, very special guest. Ken and I have been talking for several years about sitting down and talking about this very specific topic of crashing a DeLorean Time Machine. But so yeah, Ken Kapolowski.
It's never been the right time, right?
It's not been the right time. I know it's a sensitive topic. It was when it first happened.
Yeah.
And I know we've been talking through the years, and you're like, let me be in the right space in the right time for it. So
I had to catch my breath after that, but I think I finally caught my breath. We can talk about it now. So
yeah, so I'm sure a lot of people probably saw the VinWiki video of you talking about it a little bit, and also the crash test DeLorean video. And I think you got one more video coming out with VinWiki sometime.
Yeah. We went out there. We did a few videos with them, and it was a nice environment to talk about these things that were very sensitive for me for the longest time. And I feel like that kind of got me out of my shell now that the car is fixed, and had my first conversation about it. So I think it's a good time now to get into some of the more gory and gruesome details. And maybe I'll start crying in the middle of the podcast. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, let's start first, how you got into DeLoreans, right? I mean, I know we'll get into the crashed DeLorean Time Machine, and I know most people probably want to see pictures, video, all that, and I'll make sure all that's in here. But
all the gruesome details, we'll get that. But come on, you've seen Back to the Future. As soon as that car rolls off the back of Doc's truck, that's when everybody fell in love with it, right?
Yeah, that's when I knew I was hooked. I was like, holy cow! What is this?
It's just such a cool car, so space age. And then what's kind of sealed the deal for me is the comic book scene in Back to the Future, when the kid's looking, it's like, that ain't no airplane. I'm just like, man, it's something about rolling off the truck in the barn, spaceship UFO thing. It's definitely a super cool car that was way ahead of its time and still is today. I mean, as many people know, I've moved from Toronto to Miami, and if you've been to Miami, you'll see Lamborghinis, Ferraris, super fancy cars all the time, everywhere. So much so that you're just like, yeah, whatever, there's another Lamborghini. But I thought, okay, I'm going to come here with my DeLorean or my time machine, and people are saying like, what's this thing? People still lose their freaking minds over just how cool this car is.
Yeah, I find that's probably my favorite thing of doing Comic Cons or anything like that, right? People turning the corner and seeing the car and just losing their minds. Is this real? Is this a real car? It's a real DeLorean. It's a replica, but it's a real DeLorean, and people just absolutely lose it. So obviously you're from the Canada area, near Toronto, right?
The Canada area, yeah. I'm born and raised in Mississauga, Ontario. That's a small suburb, kind of just outside of Toronto, 30 minutes or so. Lived in a town called Burlington. Had the accident with the car in Burlington, and been in Miami now for just about almost 3 years now.
Yeah, what a change, right? Going from Canada to Miami.
It was a bit of a roller coaster. I mean, when we first moved here, we're all super excited. I got my wife and two kids. I got Kayla, who's 12, and Kennedy, who's 10. And when me and Michelle made the decision to move here, work's been kind of asking me for 8 years, like, come on down, let's finally get you out into the head office in Miami. I'm like, I'm good. I think I'll stay in Canada. But right around COVID, 2019, 2020, I was still traveling here a lot, and brought the wife and kids with me. They liked it. And I was like, all right, cool. You know what? Maybe we're finally ready to do this. We sold the house in Burlington, moved out here, found a nice suburban area in South Florida. It's a town called Weston. I got my garage space. I can park my car outside, not be too worried about it. And it was super excited to be here. And then we kind of leveled off and said, oh my gosh, what did we do? The kids were kind of like, wow, school is so much harder here. And then we were like, kind of riding that roller coaster. And then finally, things leveled out. I realized that Florida is the highest DeLorean ownership in America. It's the most people bought DeLoreans in Florida when they first came out. Everywhere I turn, I'm seeing DeLoreans now, which is kind of crazy. The kids are better with school. Me and the wife are happy that they're happy. We got a dog. It's great. We're having a great time in Florida now.
I'm happy to hear that. So your first DeLorean ever. What year was it that you bought your first DeLorean?
Oh man, I was 20 years old, so it was like, I don't know. I'm terrible with math. I'm born in 1979, so it was whatever that math is, and that was a fun story. I got arrested at the border when I bought that car in Buffalo, New York.
Really?
Oh man,
Well, we got to hear
yeah,
that now. I mean, you can't say that.
yeah. I can't just drop that and not say nothing. So when I bought the car, it was a lovely gentleman named Henry Dabowski out in Tonawanda, New York, kind of upstate New York, Buffalo area, and he had a really nice, cool car collection. And the DeLorean was one of these cars. He's an older gentleman. And he kind of said to me, he's like, "Look, I'm just getting rid of a few things, and the DeLorean's one of the things that I love the car. Don't have a use for it anymore. I can barely get in and out of it anymore. It's a pretty low car to get in and out of. And what did I pay? I think I paid like just around $16,000 for the car way back then, 20 something years ago, 24 years ago. And when I bought the car from him, I wasn't sure about what to do at the border. So I'm calling up the Niagara Falls Peace Bridge saying, what do I do to bring this car across? And they're like, we're going to take the purchase price or the Kelly Blue Book price, whichever is lower. And then you have to pay $100 for if the car has air conditioning, something like this. And then you pay the duty and taxes on that. So I said, fine. So I went to the border. The Kelly Blue Book value on the DeLorean at that time was something ridiculous, like $3,000 or something like that. And I was like, look, I paid 16.5. I see the Kelly Blue Book value of 3,000, and which one am I paying taxes on now? He goes, well, what did you pay for the car? I said 16.5. Okay, and the Kelly Blue Book is 3,000. He goes, yeah. And I go, great. So I'm paying taxes on the 3,000. He goes, no, you pay on the 16.5 unless you can give me a receipt that says that you paid 3,000 for it. I was like, well, I'm so confused now because like when I spoke to the other agent, they told me whichever is the lowest, and I got a bill of sale for 16.5. Do you want me to get a bill of sale for 3? He goes, maybe. So I said, okay. So I went back and got a bill of sale for 3. Went back and then they said, now I'm misrepresenting the car, and they impounded the car, put me under arrest, read me my Miranda rights. My poor father's standing there with me. He's like, what the heck is going on here right now? And they basically said, look, I don't know where things got misconstrued or misunderstood, but this isn't how we do it. You need to pay the full taxes on the 16.5. And since it was misrepresented now, we're going to give you an additional $5,000 penalty on this, unless you want to take it to trial and have your vehicle impounded here at the border until the trial happens. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested in that. So I guess technically I paid 21.5 for my car now. That was a good time. Yeah, that was not wild. That was not wild at all. It's a terrible experience for a 20-year-old kid sitting at the border being arrested. Man, it's just not good.
I would have thought it was a joke until you're actually.
That's what I thought. I was like, are you kidding me? And they're like, no. I was like, what? Like I thought they were just like, haha, it's a DeLorean, let's mess with him. Which totally happens over the years. Like I get pulled over by police all the time, and they're like, oh, I clocked you going at 88 or something like this. And then they just want to get a picture with the car. But every once in a while, you'll get that cop that like wants to give you a ticket and then ask you for a picture. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Anyway, that was my first introduction to the DeLorean world.
That's wild. I mean, I've heard some stories. That's up there. Man, how about you had a chance to work with the crew that did the restoration for the Out of Time documentary, Saving the DeLorean Time Machine. I know you were involved in that. How was that for you?
So back in the day, me, Joe Walser, Joey Kovacs, Ed Hillary, Mike Wolterbeek, there was Charles Klein was in there for a little bit. We had Mark Dellinger was in there. These were all the original guys that we kind of got together and were building DeLorean time machines. So there was another guy back in the day, Gary Weaver, that was doing time machines as well. Kind of one of the pioneers, if you think about it. It was him and Monty Chamos and I'm trying to think. Scott Dorlack was another guy that was doing these cars way back in the day.
Bob was doing them at that time too, right?
Video Bob. Yeah, Video Bob
With
was
Bob at
involved
that time
around
too.
then. Yeah, and we're all on these forums kind of talking about what we need to do to find these parts. It was like picture archaeology, trying to figure out what some of these things were. We spent years kind of just pouring ourselves over these crappy, grainy photos and like stills from the DVD. The Blu-rays weren't even out yet, and trying to figure out what they were. We spoke with Kevin Pike, Michael Chaffee, all these guys that were involved with building the cars originally for the movie. And I guess from some of the events that we did in 2010 and 2015, we did the We're Going Back events. So it was like the fan celebration of Back to the Future. Universal Studios was involved with some of these things. And we mentioned things like, hey, it's pretty sad that the DeLorean is sitting out back at Universal Studios, just kind of getting no love. Can we work out some kind of a deal to have these crazy super fans fix the car? And they did it. They gave us a budget. We assembled the team together. Joe Walser, Terry Metalis basically uh, ran the effort, and there you go. There you go. Nice. You got one of the
Yeah,
artifacts from the time
Joe
machine.
was kind enough to.
Yeah, those are great. I think
Yeah.
owning a small piece of the pieces that can't be saved is such a great idea.
No, if
Uh,
anybody's never seen it, I'll probably link to it in the description. The
yeah,
Out
it's
of
on
Time
display at
site.
the Peterson. The Out of
Yep.
Time documentary that Steve Concatelli made with Joe is great to document some of the work that was done to bring that car back to life. But going and seeing that car from what it was in the back lot to now going to the Peterson Museum and seeing what it is today, it's just so nice to finally see this car getting the love that it deserved. Because back then, the movie studios, they didn't really have a budget or any kind of consideration for these props. Like, I mean, I don't know if you heard the story about the original H.G. Wells time machine that they had from that movie. Somebody found it in a Salvation Army or a Goodwill store.
Yeah,
Just sitting
absolutely
there.
mind-boggling. But back then, people didn't think props were going to be. I mean, nowadays they're worth millions of dollars. Some of them, but I mean, still, the
Yeah,
almanacs from the movie, the hoverboards from the movie. These things are going for like 50, 60, $70,000.
it's insane.
Nobody ever
Absolutely
really had
insane.
any type of idea. And unfortunately, they actually ended up tossing the fiberglass car. They tried selling it, nobody bought it.
Yeah,
For
it's
this movie
crazy.
fiberglass car, which is
Yeah, all
just
that stuff. The 18 van was back there. The kit car. They had kit on display from Knight Rider in the theme park for the longest time, and actually had a voice actor speaking through a microphone, talking and interacting with guests at the theme park. Story goes that like one day somebody took the interior out of that car while it was parked in the tram tour area, and it went missing. And then they crushed pieces of the cars. The 18 van got destroyed. It was sad, but Ed Hillary has a great story from prop history. Uh, his grandfather had something to do with Gone with the Wind. And when they were doing the set dressing and all this stuff, he actually had the blinds and the chandeliers from Gone with the Wind hanging in his house because they were getting rid of them at the end of filming. And he's like, "Oh, I'll put those in my house." So, I mean, it just goes to show you from like, yeah, it's just a prop. Who cares? Let's throw it out. Let's get rid of it. It's done its useful thing. To like, if you think today that this movie that's so insanely popular, the guy has the piece of history hanging in his house, and it just blows my mind to see what other props have just gone away now because no preservation of them. So it's nice to see things getting preserved now.
no. I agree. I find it cool as well. You were one of the very first people I would say who also started a website for renting DeLorean time machines, right?
Yeah, that was fun. Uh, every time you take the car out, like I started with the stock DeLorean, and every time you take the stock DeLorean out, everybody's kind of freaking out. Where's your flux capacitor? Or they get into the whole John DeLorean and the cocaine stories and stuff like that. But as you know very well, the demand to have the time machine at events is crazy. Like it just draws the crowds, and like you mentioned earlier, when people turn the corner and they see a DeLorean, they freak out because it's just such a unique and cool thing to see. It really does draw a crowd and bring people in. So if you want to promote something or do something, the time machine is a fantastic way to do it. So as I'm driving the car around, taking it to local car shows and events and stuff like this, people start asking like, can you bring it to this corporate event? Can you bring it to my wedding? Can you bring it to this and this and this and the other thing? I said, sure, why not? I started up timemachineforhire.com, and it kind of helped with the upkeep of DeLorean parts, as they they're not ridiculously expensive to get replacement parts. Now DeLorean Houston is doing a lot of stuff to get things like driver's side front quarter panel, or front
Yeah.
fender rather, was impossible to get. They didn't even make enough replacements back in the day, and now finally, for the first time, all these years later, they're selling these parts. But the time machine for hire, you make a couple $100 here and there and whatever, and just seeing the reaction on the people's faces when it brought all of these people to the event, the wedding or whatever, it made me feel a little less crazy too, because now I'm just not this weirdo driving around in a time machine. Uh, I'm also getting to enjoy it through all these other people enjoying it as well.
Yeah. I I think it's cool. I've obviously been in the community for a while, but I'm like more new school when it comes to the DeLorean rental type space. And granted, I started in late 2019, and we're now in 2024, and it's kind of blown up a lot bigger than I really anticipated. But being able to meet so many people in the community that started this, like yourself,
It's a
has
great
has been
community.
really cool.
It's a
Yeah,
great community, and I'm all about having the fun. Me and Joe always talked about the reward is in the journey, and all of the cool adventures and things that we got to do in this journey, from making the time machine and restoring the A car. And you know uh, Universal Studios had me out to New York City a few times to do the Blu-ray release party. We did a magazine shoot with Entertainment Weekly. You get to meet Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd and Leah Thompson. I mean, like, what it's like hanging out at the shows. You got pictures of you hanging out with Christopher Lloyd. It's
yeah,
so wild. And the community, for the most part, I mean, every community's got their negative Nancy's and the Debbie Downers and all these folks that are gonna kind of make things not as fun. But I'm of the opinion that you kind of need that once in a while, because if it's all just fun and games, you don't have a little bit of shit to appreciate the sugar. Pardon my language.
yeah.
It's one of these things. You need the right balance. So it's not overly dramatic. There is drama in the community, but I try to steer clear of that. I just think it's all about having fun, doing these adventures, and having a good time, and that's what I hope to continue doing with the time machine and
No,
the
I
fine
agree.
folks in the DeLorean and time machine community.
Yeah, there's always a little bit of drama, and it keeps things interesting, so to speak.
Yeah,
But
it's
thankfully,
interesting.
it's not really overly crazy. All right,
Exactly.
let's get to the story at hand.
Yeah.
And you could lead into this story. And again, I've heard it many times, and I'm still blown away when I hear this story.
Yeah.
But uh, let's get to the DeLorean time machine crash, and then after that, let's talk about you deciding to repair the car.
Yeah.
So
Sure. So the story is we did these car show events in Canada. It was called Oblivion, and Oblivion was kind of a celebration of 80s and 90s car and culture. We'd have all these times where we go to these car shows where it was, yeah, sorry, your car's too new. We only want 50s, 60s, maybe the 70s. And being in a 1981 DeLorean, I'm like doing the walk of shame, turning my car around and driving back home because they don't want to have a 1981 vehicle in their car show. I was like, okay, whatever. So that kind of sparked the idea of Oblivion. Myself, Justin Sukeridge, and Marty Edwards kind of pioneered this notion of, let's do a show that only includes 1980 to 2000. Only the 80s and 90s cars are going to be allowed. So when some of these grumpy guys show up in their 60s cars, you're like, I'm sorry, your car's just too old. But we had a great time doing these shows. We had this girl, Tori, that was helping us with the event. I kept promising her a ride in the time machine. She was a big fan of Back to the Future. And as you've probably seen in the VinWiki video, she finally got her first ride in the DeLorean Time Machine. And her first ride in the DeLorean Time Machine was a very unforgettable ride in the time machine. We were driving down, uh, not a crazy road, but a fun road to drive down. It was a country road, pretty quiet, not a lot of traffic on it. And it kind of goes down a hill and snakes around. It's called Rattlesnake Point in Burlington. And it was raining as we were driving. It just started raining as we were driving away from the restaurant. And as we went down the hill, uh, that hill, it's not a well maintained road. I mean, it's a fine road to drive on, but like when it snows in the winter, it's probably one of the last roads to get cleared of snow. When it's needing repair work done in the summer, it's probably one of the last roads to get repair work done on it. But for the most part, I mean, there's a couple potholes here and there. It's a fine road to drive on. But the rain combined with the not so great road conditions, combined with what everybody on YouTube is saying is my terrible driving skills, this perfect storm came to basically take my car and throw it up on the escarpment there. Now, we were lucky when the back end started to lose control. A lot of people are saying I should have just kept on the gas and kept moving. Other people are saying I shouldn't have braked. Other people are just saying I'm just a terrible driver. Listen, maybe it's all of these things. I don't know. But what ended up happening was that car started going up the embankment, and it was going to go over that embankment until the front end of it hit a tree, and it kind of tilted it off on its side there. So I'm sitting right here where I am right now. This is the car that was in that accident. Tori's sitting right there, and she's like, "Holy shit! Holy shit! Holy shit!"
Upside
Inverted,
down.
yeah. We're
Yeah.
we're like this. I'm like hanging. I'm like, seatbelts are on. The seatbelts are keeping us in our seats, and I'm kind of talking to her, saying, "Hey, are you okay?" She goes, "Yeah. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine." I'm like, "Are you sure? Like, take your breath. I know I'm fine. I feel fine. I don't see anything or feel anything that's wrong. Do the same. Just take a minute, close your eyes, and see if you're feeling all right." And she goes, "Yeah. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine." But then, like instantly, it was probably a few minutes, but I felt like instantly, the fire department's pounding on the window saying, "Hey, is everything okay in there? How do we get this door open?" I'm trying to explain to them that like the way that it opens up, it's not like a regular car door. It doesn't go like this. It's a going door. We have to kind of, maybe the locking mechanism is messed up from being upside down like this. I don't know, but maybe we can push down on it. And I didn't even realize just how high the door was up off the ground from being up the escarpment and tilted on its side. You can kind of tell in some of the pictures. But being inside the car, I just thought the guy could like just stand there, push on the thing, and open the door. But he probably would have needed a ladder. It was way too high up in the air. Plus, Tori was not calm. She was freaking out, and they made the decision to cut the door with the jaws of life. And I just kind of said like, "Hey man, if we're gonna be doing this, like, I don't know if the glass is gonna shatter, but give me something, give me a tarp or something, so this glass isn't gonna be showering all on top of us and everything." But they used the jaws of life. They cut it from the rear quarter panel right over top of my VIN plate. My VIN plate's got a little nick on it to this day as a little reminder of that day. And then into the middle of the door. Once they got that done, they were able to pop it off the rear door latch. The front one released, the door opened, and they opened the door all the way down. So I've never seen a DeLorean door open that wide before, but it opened wide. And I kind of pulled myself out of the car. They helped Tori get out of the car. She was fine. I was fine. And that's when I started taking pictures of the car. And it was surprisingly not that bad. I mean, for seeing the video of how it went up on the hill like that and was resting on its side, basically, I thought that whole passenger side of the car was going to be completely destroyed.
And now the backside of that too, that is that a mountain or a hill? On the backside of that, like you almost went over. Right?
Yeah. So that's the Niagara Escarpment. The Niagara Escarpment is a big rocky formation. It's basically what Niagara Falls falls off of when you see the water falling. So I'm not saying I'm about to drive my car off Niagara Falls, but the Niagara Escarpment is that rock formation in Canada that goes all the way up through that area in Burlington, Rattlesnake Point, where we were. And I'll be back there in a few weeks. I got to go back to the scene of the accident and take some video footage of what that fall looks like if you go over that cliff. But it is not a good situation. And yeah, it was pretty high. If that tree didn't stop us, we would have went over that cliff and down this rock formation, and it would have been a whole lot more damage. But luckily we didn't. Luckily the damage on the car wasn't terrible. Honestly, the worst of the damage was probably the jaws of life on the door. When we had the tow recovery people show up on the scene, they were just gonna kind of let the car fall down onto its side. I'm like, no. Let's slow the roll here a little bit. Let's take our time and really think about what we're gonna do. So we brought another crane on site, and they were able to kind of strap the car around its chassis and slowly lower the vehicle down onto the road. So it was a very controlled and slow leveling off back onto the wheels. once they did that, like I said, I was expecting to look at the passenger side of the car and just see carnage, but it was perfectly fine. I got some scratches on my tie green tubes on the back of the time machine, and that's it. Those are still there to that day, the little scratches on it. But the scratch on my VIN plate, scratch on the tie tubes, that was the extent of what remains on the car today from that accident. Um, the repair process after that, we had a lot of help from everybody in the DeLorean community. Justin at Wells Auto, they did a great job of bringing the car back to life. I got tons of pictures of this that I'll provide here that we can show the world just how great of a job was done there. From rebuilding the engine, because being that way upside down, who knows what kind of fluids got into what areas, to replacing the driver's door that was cut up, doing the fiberglass work. They had all kinds of specialists and teams come in and take care of all of this stuff. I had Josh from DeLorean Performance out in Ohio help me source some of the stainless parts that weren't readily available. That was another adventure in itself, man. Oh man, driving out to Akron, Ohio, with my friend Gary Nagel and John Budzinski. We're driving a 14-foot trailer filled with DeLorean parts to repair my car. It was the windiest day I've ever seen in my life. I thought this 14-foot trailer was going to just fall over on the side of the road, and we'd have another accident with the DeLorean parts before they even get that on the car. Yeah. But we made it back safe and sound on there. I got some great pictures of that. There was like down trees in front of us and everything. It was insane. But we got all those parts back to Justin. They got them back on the car. Car was put back together, and better than ever. I think that the car was a nice, clean DeLorean before the accident. I was almost kind of reluctant to make a time machine conversion out of it, but I did. And now that the restoration has happened and the repairs have happened, I think from the work that Justin and his team has done on this car has never been in such good condition.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, thankfully, you being in Miami, you've done several events for me recently. I mean,
always a blast, lots of fun.
Yeah, so it's been great, and I still remember when I saw the picture of the car. I've never seen pictures get wiped off the internet so quickly. So I had one of your friends reach out to me and was like, "Hey, man, you can delete that, and if you see other people like." So I deleted it, and then I reached out.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Well,
yeah, I appreciate
he was like,
that.
"Hey, man, Ken's pretty upset. Like,
it was tough, man. Like, I'll tell you, that day, it was the day before my daughter Kennedy's birthday. It was September 25th. Kennedy's birthday is September 26th. We were like right in the middle of moving and packing up our house from Burlington to Miami. We were in the middle of doing our Oblivion show, Camp Oblivion, that year. There's all these things were happening on that same weekend, and my mind was just like, what is happening right now? The last thing that I need is having this time machine in an accident. Even right before that accident I mentioned before, it was me being a shitty driver again, backing it into a wall, messing up my rear quarter panel. Justin just fixed that thing. I picked up the car and then, of course, rolled it. And he's like, really? You just had to, I was like, hey, man, that quarter panel is still in good shape. You didn't do bad. But I just wasn't ready for people to start throwing comments at me in the middle of being in that state of mind with so much going on. The last thing I wanted to have was 300 people reaching out to me saying, what happened? What are you going to do with the car? Are you selling the time machine parts? Are you selling the car? Are you doing insurance? What are you doing? So I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I did it. Now that it's done, happy to talk about it. I just avoided all of those opinions and.
I know. I felt bad. Like I said, I deleted it as soon as I was asked to, and then I saw a few other people who posted. I said, "Hey, delete it." The car owners.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank
but
you so
I will
much.
say, I've never seen something be like wiped off the internet so quickly, and I'm serious because nowadays it's forever, right?
Yeah.
So I was really happy to see that. And you and I have been talking the last few years about doing this, sitting down and talking, and I was fine with VinWiki getting the first crack at it because they're awesome. But
it was a good way to get the story out there, just to kind of tease everybody with a little bit of like, hey, look at this crazy thing that happened. But now I appreciate you kind of keeping things undercover, and now we can dive into the gory details. And I can start to show you some of these pictures that I have here about the restoration, getting into the bowels of the DeLorean to really see what was damaged, what needed to be replaced, and kind of give the full story of exactly what happened on that accident. Because I think, you know, from being in a few accidents in DeLoreans myself, it's not a proud thing to say, but I mean, unfortunately, that was the second accident that I've had in a DeLorean. One in the Time Machine, one in my stock car, and they're pretty darn good cars to be resilient in an accident, in my opinion. I mean, the stainless steel is very, very unforgiving. You can't just Bondo it and fix it like this. It takes a masterful person like Chris Nicholson or somebody to come out and really kind of be that wizard to bring that stainless steel back to life. And unfortunately, jaws of life. Unless you got a real time machine, I don't think you're getting that thing fixed at all.
That's just wild. And obviously, throughout this, you know, I'll be putting in pictures and video from the crash and also the restoration of what you done. And now you're in Miami. The car's there. The car's available for really for any type of event, right? Weddings, birthdays. Yep. I know we had like a 4 or 5 event deal with a hotel there in Miami. So
yes, that's been a lot of fun.
They've done
a lot of fun.
Two so far, I believe.
Yeah, we've done 2. The restaurant's Bagatelle, really nice fancy place in South Beach. So it's all these like fancy people coming out in their Miami outfits, and they got the time machine parked up front there. They got dancers and actors. They had a giant robot there last time. It was just crazy how they pull out all the stops. When they party in Miami, they party in Miami. I've never seen nothing like this before in my life. Yeah. We also did a great event out at the yacht club with you that you arranged for us out there. That was a really fun event. We got to basically park the car there and for a private party that was going on there. That was a really, really good time. But for the city that never sleeps, I thought it was New York, but man, it's like on a Tuesday night, downtown South Beach, Miami, this place was just bumping. And people still freak out when they see the time machine here. Like I said, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Rolls Royce, whatever, you name it, people are kind of oblivious to them now because there's so many of them. But when you see that time machine rolling down the road, people freak out. And I got to tell you, driving that thing in South Beach, it is so much fun. I feel like I'm in Grand Theft Auto Vice City. The neon lights are everywhere. You got all these beautiful people walking around, and I'm driving the Deluxo down Collins Avenue, right?
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that, to be honest with you. I mean, I think that's so cool. So yeah, for anybody, I guess, watching this, you know, it doesn't matter. You know, we've got cars all over as far as DeLorean Rental goes, from Los Angeles to New York and obviously Florida. But you're in the South Florida area, so if anybody's looking to rent a DeLorean time machine, you know, hit us up. We're happy to have Ken show up. He'll tell you some stories, maybe off camera. I know you've got a lot of stories, man. So we really could do this for hours, to be honest.
I could tell you a bunch of stories. It's fun, but I'll make sure that I drive very careful to whatever events that you guys have here in South Florida. I got my really good backup camera now with my lane detection, my backup sensors, my front sensors, everything like that. And I've realized that in Florida, well, really anywhere when you're driving with the time machine, you gotta pay attention to everybody else on the road as well too, because everyone is excited to see the car. They give you a honk, they give you a thumbs up, and now they pull their camera phone out and start drifting into your lane to get a shot of the car while it's driving, and that's terrifying. So you got to be hyper aware when you're driving these things.
You're 100% correct. I mean, I'm always, anytime I'm in the DeLorean Time Machine, I'm just, it's scary. I mean, it's fun and it's great, but you really have to watch because the people will.
You've driven them before, right?
Trying to get a picture of the car. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, that was my first accident. This lady was taking a picture and she rear-ended me because she was just getting so close. You see, after she got it, she's like, "I'm so sorry. It's such a beautiful car. I just wanted a picture of it. I didn't mean to have an accident, obviously." But I mean,
but we were talking about, right? It's that visceral reaction when people see the car, because there's only but so many DeLoreans. Forget that, just time machines. Then there's only, I don't know. There's no specific number, but I think it's, last time I heard, probably 250 time machines.
Oh, is that the number today? Yeah, okay.
That's what I've been hearing.
Wild. Okay.
200 to 250, somewhere in there.
Okay.
So it is wild. So being able to see one out in the wild, so to speak, yeah, people just lose their minds.
Yeah. But all in all, I mean, they are fantastic cars to drive, fantastic cars to work on, and in my opinion, pretty great cars to repair. Like, my friend Gary Frank was telling me to be able to go to DeLorean Houston and buy a front hood in the crate, brand new old stock, you're paying less than a hood for a 2024 Ford Fusion or something like this. Like those are costing you more money to buy today than this classic antique vehicle that was made over 40 years ago. It's crazy to think. And I just got to hand it to Houston and all the other DeLorean repair shops that are out there that are keeping these cars on the road. I know there's a lot of things with the Bosch CIS fuel system and stuff like this that people are kind of leaning more towards the LS swaps and stuff like this, and I think that's fantastic. I mean, shoot, I got to go for a boot in Josh Shattenkirk's LS modified DeLorean. That is how a DeLorean should drive. It was hands down amazing. But
Yeah.
a DeLorean for what it is, the fact that you can get off the shelf parts from a Volvo dealer or any of these DeLorean shops and keep the car on the road, it really is a special car to really turn the heads and keep running. So you don't see that very often with many of these other collector cars these days. They kind of get to a point of almost disrepair. I have a friend with a Volkswagen Beetle, and there's stuff wrong with his engine that like even these master mechanics aren't able to nail down, and that's scary because I know that day's coming one day for these DeLoreans. I just hope it's not anytime soon.
It's not today. So
yeah, exactly.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time for coming on. We'll, you've got a lot more stories, so maybe we'll do this again
Yeah,
at
sure.
some point. But I always enjoy talking to you. I know we chatting back away a couple times a week, so it really is always nice to talk to you. And I appreciate you doing all the events that you've been doing.
Always a pleasure. And I love you sending over the events. Like I said before, it's the reward is in the journey. Always doing these events is really what makes it special and having fun with it. Having a DeLorean time machine in the garage, it's fun, but taking it out and enjoying it with others, that's where it's at.
I agree 100%. All right, buddy. We'll talk again
man.
soon. Hope everybody enjoyed the crazy story and the pictures and the videos from it. And we'll do it again sometime.
Appreciate it, Jason. Thank you.
All right, buddy.